Hi, everyone. My name is Carrie-Ann DeCendis. I am editor-in-chief of Eyecare Business magazine and editorial operations manager at Connexient. And I am joined today by David Burkus, bestselling author and management professor. Thank you for joining us, David.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So you led a fantastic keynote at the Vision Council Executive Summit in Amelia Island, and it had so much engagement in person and virtually. And this was focused on the surprising science of high-performing teams. And I'm very excited to dig deeper into the ins and outs of building clarity, trust, and momentum with your team for our EB audience. So you've written and presented extensively about motivation and engagement. What do leaders most often misunderstand about what actually drives people to do their best work?
So I think one of the biggest things that leaders misunderstand is that it's not necessarily about external things all of the time, right? So we think like, oh, I need to motivate my staff, but budgets are tight this year. I don't have it in for a raise, or they're all asking for more flexible work arrangements or things that are outside of our control. And then we just sort of throw up our hands and go, well, there's nothing we can do. But so often a lot of it comes from the internal drive. One of the things I said from the stage was that people want to do work that matters and work for leaders who remind them that they matter. And those are things every leader at every level can take responsibility for. The ways in which we talk about and remind people why our work matters so much stimulates we call it pro-social purpose in organizational psychology, a sense that, hey, what I'm doing here actually really does affect real people. And so I want to put more into it, but also feeling cared for, feeling like my leader cares for me. There's a really interesting study. It comes from the world of nonprofits that a lot of employees who are thinking about leaving will actually stay even without a pay raise if the reason their salary is what it is explained to them by a leader that cares for them. Now, I'm not saying just fake caring and underpay people, but so often we look at those external things and we think, well, I can't do them right now. And you don't necessarily need to. You should ask yourself, what am I doing to remind people that our work matters and that they matter to me? And over time, we can fix those other things. But in the short term, that you're going to get a lot more motivation and a lot more collaborative behavior on your team by paying attention to those two.
For sure. And I feel that that's probably a relatively easy fix as opposed to any other external factor that you have to navigate as well.
For sure. For sure.
Awesome. So, I mean, across industries and especially in healthcare professions, including optometry and opticianry, burnout does remain a concern. What approaches would you say practice leaders can use to support resilience without necessarily overburdening their staff?
Yeah. So I think burnout, especially in healthcare, my wife's an ER physician, so I see this all over the time.
Okay.
Less a matter of self-care or how we bounce back from bad days at work, and much more about capacity management. Right. The interesting thing when you look at the research is that burnout is usually the result of feeling like you have too many demands or the demands are too difficult for your skill set and your energy levels and things like that. But the opposite is true as well. There's a phenomenon called being bored out, meaning the work is too routine, it's too mundane, I'm not feeling stretched, et cetera.
Okay.
And in the middle is what we call eustress, which is like the optimal level of stress. We've all had those days where we feel like we're in the flow, where we feel like things are really rolling. Those are eustress days. And for a leader, it's really about paying attention to our team's capacity. Are we asking them to do too much? Are we giving, a lot of times the reward for a job well done is more jobs to be done. And so are we thinking about what can I take off their plate if I need to add this thing on it? And how can I manage the capacity of my team? Not just, hey, I know things are really, really hard, but I got you a meditation playlist on Spotify. That's not going to work. Paying attention to our capacity is.
Awesome. Yeah. And that definitely makes sense, especially for healthcare professions. I feel like those quick fixes like the Calm app or something like that isn't going to go as far as, really evaluating the workload that they have. Awesome. So my last question for you is, as leaders face, increasing pressure to do more with fewer resources, what trade-offs should they be most cautious about making?
Yeah. So, I have two words of warning here, right?
Okay.
The first is make sure we're really, really clear on what our priorities are. One of the jobs of any leader is to make and keep priorities clear. And yet so often there might be market disruptions or changes in tariffs or changes in healthcare regulations. And there are times where that calls for a whole new strategy. But there are other times where things change and we feel like, okay, this new thing is the most important when it's not. So before we even talk about what can we drop and what can we not, we need to be really, really clear about what our priorities are. And then if we think about capacity management, then when we have a really ranked sense of these are the non-negotiables and these are the semi-negotiables, et cetera, we can figure out what we can offload. And the other warning I would have is before we just think about like, oh, what should we abandon, et cetera, I think a lot of times leaders need to take a good look on what level of productivity is being lost in collaboration. Ideally, and we talked about this at the executive summit, ideally, you have a team of people and the output of their work is better than what any individual could do, but that's not actually true. A lot of teams fail to achieve that collective intelligence and actually literally underperform what they should. And the things that are going to take care of that is making sure everybody's clear on their roles and responsibilities, making sure they know what to expect of other people, and making sure that handoffs between work are really, really clear. If you've ever found yourself waiting on a work product or a resource or something from someone else, and then you go reach out to them and like, oh, I had no idea you were working on that today. That's a clarity problem that's leading to a capacity problem, right? And so you're losing some of those gains. So you may actually be able to get more out of your team just by solving that issue. And the coolest thing about that is nobody feels overworked. In fact, they actually enjoy working with a team more when they have that level of clarity.
And I just have a follow-up to that.
Yeah.
Would you say there is like a time frame that you should be doing those check-ins? A company or a practice may have these 2026 goals. They may have these weekly goals. They may have these daily goals. Is there an optimum time that you can be doing this?
Yeah. So I want to clarify here too. It's not just goals, but the activities in the service of the goals. I'm a huge fan, and we talked about this in the talk, of what I call huddles, syncing up on a regular basis and letting everybody report out on here's what I'm focused on. Here's what I've achieved. Here's what I'm focused on. Here's what could potentially block my progress. The cycle is a little weird. I don't think some teams do it daily, some every other day. I don't think you can go further than maybe weekly. I've seen one very remote, very slow moving team do biweekly. But I think for a lot of teams, the rhythm is kind of weekly. Hey, it's Monday or it's the start of our week, et cetera. What are we focused on? Let everybody sync up so they know what everybody's doing, but also how they can help. And again, this isn't just the leader reading out the announcements. This is everybody reporting in on here's what my priorities are. Here's what my activity is going to be this week. Here's where I need help. You can get a lot of collaborative gains just from a simple 30-minute huddle once a week.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for taking the time. I hope you had an awesome time at the Executive Summit as well. I really appreciate all of your insights, and our audience will as well. If our audience does want to hear more from you, is there a location that they could go to find some of your insights?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I've been blessed with is a really odd, unique last name. David Burkus, Burkus, is pretty much none of us, I'm the only one on the internet. So if you type that into Google, you'll find me wherever you want to find me, whatever social networks, whether it's LinkedIn or what have you. We're even on TikTok, but don't expect any dances. I'd love to keep—
Never say never. Maybe get a—
Touche. Yeah. But I'd love to keep the conversation going. These are not problems we're going to solve overnight. And so I'm happy to help anybody who reaches out. Just come find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you again so much for having me.